Well, hello again, YouTube. I'm sorry for the hiatus. This is Real Deal Fishing here again, and I haven't really put out a video in the last couple of months. Had some personal stuff come up and some different things with my job, and at the end of the day, as much as I love fishing, this is still just a hobby to me. So thanks for kind of sticking with me. I'm sorry that I didn't put some stuff out there. I'm sure if you've been following my blog, I've been kind of on a hiatus from that as well, but anyway, it is the beginning part of June, and I'm back out here on, you may recognize it, it's one of the Central Florida lakes that I love to fish. And I wanted to talk to you guys today about Quirks and Qualities. I know that if you watch Major League Fishing, they kind of coined that phrase, and I don't want to steal it from them, but I do want to say that each lake has a quirk and quality, and that's one of those things that, you just got to spend some time in the water. But here in Central Florida, there's a lot of lakes that are just very near each other, within just a few minutes drive of one another, and you would be surprised in just how different each lake is. Each lake has its little tiny quirk. Each lake has its little tiny quality. Today's lake, I know, I haven't been out here in months and months and months, and one of the quirks and qualities that I know about this lake is, the fish don't seem to mind the dirty water nearly as much on this lake as they do some of the other lakes. And I know that if I see a mat that is really nice and green and lush, I know the fish really relate to that. So some of the other lakes, there's a lake that's literally across the canal here, and those fish there, they don't like the same kind of mats. They don't like that dirty water. And if there's any kind of algae bloom or anything going on in the water, they just shut down. On this lake, it's just, for whatever reason, it's that quirk and quality that the fish, they're a little bit more catchable in water like this. Now, so how do I use that to my advantage? Well, a lot of times I can get to a lake and I'll ride around and I can rule out a lot of just dirty water that's not going to be real productive. Here, on the other hand, if I see some structure that looks really good, but maybe in some not so good water, I'm going to take a few minutes just to fish that and go through there. And a lot of guys, they'll just write that water off too, and they won't understand the quirk of this lake. That if they come on some dirty water, they probably around some really good fish, but they would just go right past it. So, that's one of those things that just takes some time out in the water, takes some time in each one of the lakes. But when you go to a lake, try to find its unique quirk and quality, and I guarantee you that it will help you catch more and better fish. So anyway, stay with me today, and we'll see if I can, I'll take you a little bit step by step on each of the different quirks and qualities I come across today on the lake, and hopefully I'll show you a few big ones. Anyway, stay tuned. Thanks. One thing about fishing Florida is it's such a target-rich environment. If you look around just in the background here, you can see there's cattails, there's hydrilla topped out, there's submergent vegetation, there's all kinds of just things to throw at, things to fish around, and a lot of times that overwhelms people, and I'll be honest with you, it overwhelms me a lot of times too. But the things to go back to when you're fishing a real target-rich environment like this, California Delta, down Louisiana, a lot of those places, they have just a lot of vegetation or structure, or even a lake that has a bunch of trees that had blown over, or stumps. That's that target-rich environment. And one of the things to remember is, you really got to remember the characteristics of a bass. They're an ambush predator. They're really, one of those predators that they're just going to sit out and find that most opportune spot, especially that big one. They're going to sit there and find that most opportune spot, so where they don't have to move as much, and still be able to, grab that prey. So know, really fish those points, those edges, and you might have to make multiple casts to get around it. There's another edge coming. Hold on. Alright, I might have to edit some of that out, but as you can see here, as you can see up here, there's a kind of a break in these cattails here, and you know, those bass, they're really going to want to set up on that point to where they can grab some fish just cruising by, or you know, just have that access to that open water and just be able to shoot back into this into that cover. But that's a target-rich environment right there. That's an angle that you want to make sure that you hit multiple times, and not just one pass on it back and forth. Because you know, that fish, are, you know, could be around there several angles. They could be just looking one direction until you put it right there in front of their face. You might not be able to get them the trigger. But you know, look for those angles not only on top of the water, but underneath too. You know, there's a lot of this vegetation you can't see, but there's just an edge of hydrilla that's underneath here, and it makes this edge. And you know, a lot of times we get caught up in what we can see, and we forget about what's kind of underneath the surface of the water. And you know, a good friend of mine, Mason Boylan, follow him on Facebook and Twitter. He's an upcoming pro fisherman here in the Central Florida area, but he told me something that really made a lot of sense to me one time, and was, you know, the biggest edge is actually the surface of the water. You know, that's one of the biggest edges that you know you can use, and a lot of times that fish will bite right there at the very end when it thinks that it's getting away, when in reality you're just kind of lifting it up near the surface of the water. So pay attention to all those edges here, and there's a bed right here. There's still a bed right here. Look out, it's June. It's a couple beds. It might be bluegill, which seems awful small for a bluegill, but boom! That's how you do it, son. Right there. That's a big 6.5 pounder for sure. Put it right in this I don't even know what kind of grass you call that, but right there in the top of the lip with the big old VMC hook, that thing's extra sharp. We'll put him in the box for now, but he just barely ate it. Boom. That's the Quirks and Qualities right there. You know, I caught that fish. It was probably a 6 or 7 pounder, and you know, I'll weigh it here in a second. It's in the box, but that just goes exactly with what I was saying about Florida being a target-rich environment. You know, I had a frog on here. I'm throwing the swim jig here in between stuff, but I came up to this mat, this lily pad mat basically, and it's sort of a target within a target. I mean, the lily pad mat itself looks great, It's open enough where you can throw a frog in there. It's open enough where you can throw a swim jig. It's got nice milfoil all around it. But the target within the target was just a really dense patch of, oh wow, there's the log right here, I never even knew. A really dense patch of grass, and I don't really know what type of grass it is. It almost just looks like a weed, but it makes a really dense spot that's probably, you know, only about 4 foot by 4 foot square. And you know, that was the target within the target, and I flipped in there with the bait that I knew I could get in there pretty relatively easy, and you know, it just barely, I didn't even realize I had a fish on it. I went to go lift up on it, and it felt dead weight there, and you know, I set the hook. You know, that's one thing when I was earlier in fishing, I would really be kind of afraid to set the hook, and for fear that I didn't have a fish on there. But you know, my good friend, he's like, you know, hook sets are free, and you know, you kind of get into that mentality. Like, if it's just not something right, that you don't feel exactly right on the end of your line, or you just kind of lost contact with your bait, and you're not real sure, hey, set that hook. I mean, you know, worst that could happen is you did just what I did, and you catch a 6.5 or 7 pounder. And you know, so definitely look within those targets within the targets. And I'm just, you know, fishing a flat here between different lily pad here. I'm going to move up over here to these cattail reeds and kind of cast around there a little bit. But you know, just pick apart those little subtle targets, and a lot of times, like I was saying earlier, that bass, you know, it'll find that spot. It'll be a great ambush point, because it can sit there for as long as it wants and not have to really move until your bait comes past it, and then whammo. Here's another great example. I don't know if you can see this. It's kind of far away for the GoPro, but I'm kind of coming into this cattail reed here. It's a few cattail heads here, and you know, there's some really target-rich things I can flip here, but the wind's kind of blowing, and it's blowing some current right in between these two cattail heads here. And you know, all the rest of this doesn't have any current, except for that little spot right up there. I'll try some quick rocking the boat so you can see, but you can maybe see a little ripple in the water there, and that's that wind-blown current that, you know, a lot of times, you know, all that current's going to pile right here against this reed head. So that's really a high value target, and you know, if you just kind of work that going into it, you know, a lot of times those fish will be set up there. It's just that little subtlety difference, that, you know, is out of the ordinary. And those fish, you know, it's an advantage for us, but you know, it's really an advantage for the fish too. And they use that for the same way we're using it. It just brings food to them. It's just those big fish, they don't have to try nearly as hard. Down the pipe there. Now, did I call that one or what? That's exactly where I called it was going to be. It's exactly where I called it. It's right there at that current. And you know, when there's fish set up like that, you know, it's easy sometimes to see that extra stuff right here. I mean, you might be able to see it with this camera here, but you know, that's a 2.5 pounder. You know, that'll definitely help the cause out, but it's all because of that current right there. You know, kind of looking at that little extra piece of the puzzle right there. That's out one of the lake's quirks and qualities I was telling you about. You know, it just has that section right there where the fish don't have to go very far to get that bait. So let me put this one in the box here. We'll see what we can get. Now we're in about a foot deeper water than that last time I caught that fish, those fish, especially that big one. And so that's going to be something to look forward to. But I tell you, with that deeper water, the vegetation is just so much more abundant back here with just one extra foot of water. Which might help me, it might hurt me. You know, there's more places for the fish to be back here. You know, so you'd think there'd be more fish. But the real thing is just tough to fish because, you know, back to that target-rich environment I was talking to, it could be a lot more places now. So it's almost a double-edged sword. That, yeah, it should probably hold more fish back here, but being that there's more vegetation, it's just more places for them I have to fish. Starting to cloud over a little bit. I know we're supposed to get some rain in the afternoon. It might get here a little early. We should help this moving pipe a little bit better. Fish seem like they're wanting to feed today. And if we get some clouds and a little wind, it might help this moving bite. There we go. Right there through the top of the mouth again. I mean, right where you should get them. Another 2 pounder. So, but you see where I caught it right there in that point. And that's right where the wind's blowing right up on those lily pads. So, you know, I'm on to something here. Let me see if I can run this pattern a little bit.
Hey guys, sorry to kind of end the video this way, but shortly after I caught that last fish, it started to rain, the skies opened up, and I got off the water as quickly as I could. But I never really got a chance to kind of close out the video like I wanted to. But first things first, the picture you're looking at right there is that 6.5 pounder that I caught in that mat. And you know, I had mentioned on there about a hook set and how hook sets are free. And that's a great example. I never felt that fish even bite that bait. It never thumped it. It never swam off with it. It just had it in its mouth. I realized there was something a little bit different at the end of my bait. And I went ahead and set the hook as hard as I could. And I ended up catching that fish. So a lot of times, you know, you'll catch a whole lot more fish when you just set the hook, even if you're, you know, not 100% sure, and you'll kind of get dialed in more and more. But you know, those hook sets are free. Worst thing that happens is your bait comes flying out of the water. Best thing that happens is you get a big giant fish like that on there. But lastly, I wanted to kind of tie this entire video together about the quirks and qualities. You know, I started this video off talking about each lake's unique quirk and each lake's unique quality, and this one in particular, you know, those fish don't mind that dirty water nearly as much. They don't mind, you know, pressure as much as some of the other lakes. So, you know, once I found out that unique quirk about this lake, you know, I had a whole lot of fish to myself that a lot of other guys would just bypass. So, get out on your boat, get out in the water, and learn what those unique quirks and qualities at your local lake, and I guarantee you'll catch more and bigger fish. Till next time, take care.